Hi.
Chang, are you able to hear me?
That's funny, the link doesn't seem to work here. Inside the, yeah. Huh, it should work, right? I'm sorry.
I'll find it out shortly.
Thank you.
Anything that moves, doesn't care what the color is,
No.
as long as it's got the flexibility.
Yes.
Thank you.
We can move things around.
Okay.
I don't do this anymore.
Commissioner Matas-Castillo, David, and Dave, can you hear me from the chambers?
Yes, we're able to hear you.
I know.
Okay, I can hear you, Commissioner.
You tell me when to.
I can hear you fine.
Okay. Okay, so then I also got a thumbs up from David Triplett, so I think we are set with audio, Commissioner, if you want to start the workshop.
Okay. So they're not here in person?
No, we do have, our consultants will come up and join us up here in a second.
Okay.
Can we pull the PowerPoint up?
Yeah, we have it up at that podium, but I can also pull it up on my end here.
Oh, great, great.
Hold on.
You ready?
So, yep.
I'm sorry?
The PowerPoint is up on the screen, not facing us, but she has it up there also. There it is.
Okay, it was.
I took the negative.
And not everybody's gonna let her know.
No, exactly. And I tested.
Yes.
Wait,
No, I think it goes here, and then let them go, and then here, beginning of that.
Yeah.
I'd like to call to order the workshop on the redistricting boundaries for Ramsey County Board of Commissioners. You want to go ahead and, should we have a roll call? Do we need a roll call?
Introductions?
Yes.
Commissioner Fretham, District 1.
Commissioner Carter, District 4.
Rafael Ortega, District 5.
Ryan O'Connor, County Manager.
Jim McDonough, District 6.
Mary Jo McGuire, Commissioner District 2.
Krista Matas-Castillo, District 3.
Go ahead.
Hi, Brian McClung with Park Street Public.
Aday Salami with Park Street Public.
Welcome. You want to go ahead?
I think Ryan, you're...
Sure, Mr. Chair, I'll just kick it off very briefly. We're back today following up from a series of work that's occurred both with the consultants and then with the town hall that happened last week that a number of you were able to attend. And so I think the goal today, we're going to have our consultants here at Park Street walk through and summarize the work that's been done to date. And then, Mr. Chair, we'll turn it back to the chair to lead discussion with the county board around the maps and path forward as we move toward the final timelines associated with the county's redistricting process.
Go ahead, Brian.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Commissioners, we're here just to present a brief overview of the timeline of these redistricting activities. Really appreciate this opportunity. Our firm, Park Street Public, was engaged with Ramsey County in November. As you all know, this year has been an especially truncated process for redistricting. That stems from some of the, the activities in Washington, D.C. that caused the census to be conducted a little late. COVID-19 and the like. And so all of this has been a more compressed than usual time frame, but we're really pleased to have had the opportunity to work with your team on getting to this point and approaching new districts for the Ramsey County Board. As you see on the screen, the timeline for this, in part then that pushed back the activity of the judicial panel that was appointed by the Minnesota Supreme Court to draw those legislative and congressional lines. And so after the legislature was not able to complete their duties under the state constitution, the judicial branch took over that activity and released their maps on February 15th. And so that's now not even 2 months ago that those lines came out. And of course, with those new legislative lines in particular, that impacts the precinct lines, which impacts the wards, and all of that comes together to impact the lines that you all will be drawing for the county board. The municipal precincts and wards had to be completed by March 29th. And again, as I mentioned, had to redraw because you can't have a legislative district intersect a precinct line. So when you look at the map and you see something that might look a little different, you can take a look at the legislative map, and in almost every case, that is why you see some of those little dodges that occur, because that's where a new precinct line has to follow a legislative line. So it makes it complicated to put those puzzle pieces together. And then for your timeline, April 26th is the date in state statute where the county commissioner districts need to be completed. Of course, then that all relates to the ballots getting prepared, filing period coming up shortly afterwards, etc. So we're approaching, of course, that April 26th deadline, but on good track to meet that timeline. Just a quick overview of our consultant activities and the work that we've been engaged in since November. We interviewed county commissioners, had the opportunity to hear from you, learn more about your districts, about communities of interest, neighborhoods, and the like, the history of the lines in Ramsey County. We conducted 2 public information sessions. A day led those sessions on February 16th and 17th, getting input from community partners, a wide variety of organizations and individuals. We're happy to talk more about that as well if you would like. Then to spur conversation and take a look at some different scenarios, our consultant team created 3 different maps for public comment. And so those maps were posted on the Ramsey County Redistricting website. And in essence, those maps were looking at kind of a least changes, a moderate changes, and more dramatic changes. So those maps were not designed to be, a proposal or a, final map for consideration. They were designed to spark conversation, to give all of you and the public an opportunity to think about what matters to them, to the community, as you set these lines for the next decade. And then we conducted a public town hall meeting on March 29th at the Plato office building. So that was both in person and online. We had really strong participation, both from people that chose to attend in person and from people that were online. The recording of that town hall meeting is online on the Ramsey County website, so I encourage people to take a look at that if they would like. And then I would add that along with that, Ramsey County had that redistricting website, and it was an opportunity for people to provide input, and we received a lot of it. And you all have received copies of the constituent feedback that we've received throughout this process. I think it speaks to the interest and the high level of engagement of citizens in Ramsey County to hear from so many people about what matters to them and why these lines and districts matter to them and to their community. So we're really heartened to see the large number of people that were interested in learning more about the work, that provided feedback. That feedback is extremely helpful. We have people on our team with a lot of technical expertise, with a strong background in redistricting. Our firm is here in Ramsey County. We're engaged with these communities and with this work in many different ways. But having a lot of people reach out and share their feedback and input is really helpful to the process and helps you all as you make the determination on what these districts should look like. And again, I'll just conclude by saying, again, we were really happy to see the level of interest from the residents of Ramsey County, from the community organizations that we worked with. This is something that only happens once every 10 years. And so it really is an important opportunity to take a look at those population changes, the communities within Ramsey County, and really make sure that those district lines reflect what we're seeing and bring people together. And I think that has been a hallmark of the Ramsey County Board over these past many decades. And this is another opportunity to take a look at what we have, improve on it, and continue to make sure that the people of Ramsey County feel well represented. So with that, Mr. Chair and members, we're happy to answer any questions you might have, and appreciate the opportunity again to be part of this process.
Are there any questions, Brian? Maybe we could have some of 2 minutes of your activities and what you heard.
Of course. Hello, again, Ade Salami with Park Street Public. And so as Brian shared, I was responsible for facilitating the first outreach sessions, or the information sessions, with the Ramsey County community partners that were identified by the staff on February 16th and 17th. Each of those sessions was an hour and a half long, in which we did an overview of what the redistricting process and timeline would look like, as well as encourage community partners to share any feedback or information that they would like us to take into consideration about the communities that would likely be impacted by a redistricting map. Additionally, I facilitated the town hall that was on March 29th. And so with Commissioner Castillo, or Mattis Castillo, also helped facilitate that conversation and got a lot of great community feedback on the 3 proposed maps that we shared on the redistricting website.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to appreciate the work that Ade did in leading that forum last week. As an entity that runs a lot of public engagement, it's tough to take a forum on a complex topic and get feedback both virtual and in person. You dealt with a couple of technological things. You did a nice job. And as somebody watching that day, I really appreciate it. And Brian to Park Street for the work here to facilitate through the process. Much appreciated to help frame up the discussion here today for the board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also was, of course, on that town hall meeting and was impressed with how you navigated all the different things going on, so thank you for that.
Of course.
And just curious, because we've been talking about the degree of public participation we were getting, if you've done this before, are we much greater than other communities? Was there a much greater interest in our community than in other redistrictings? I can appreciate that the public doesn't always, understand what this is all about and why they should care and all of these things. So I'm glad that we did get participation. I was just curious how we compare with other areas that you might have been working with.
So this is actually my first county redistricting. Most of my redistricting experience has been at the municipal level. I would say municipalities are an outlier in the sense that since they're so local, people are hyper engaged. But what I was expecting for turnout and what we received, I would say that I received a lot more engagement and feedback than I thought we would, and that was very impressive.
Yeah, Commissioner, I'll just share, we talk with colleagues and firms like ours around the country that are engaged in this kind of work just to, kind of share best practices. And I think anecdotally from those conversations, they are really impressed at the level of feedback and input that we received here in Ramsey County. So I would say that, we feel like that is true sort of as Minnesotans, that Minnesotans really engage and are aware of and active in these kinds of things at a higher level than in some places. Is reflected in high voter turnout and volunteerism and the like. And I think that was true in this case as well.
And if I could I'm hoping and I'm thinking it's also a tribute to our outreach work that we've been doing with our civic engagement, that people feel like when they do talk, we will listen to them so they're more engaged or they're more likely to give us feedback, hopefully. I mean, that's our goal always at Ramsey County, is to make sure that we engage the public, and we're trying to improve on that all the time. So I'm hoping that we continue at that level of increasing our numbers.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
No further questions or discussion? Well, thank you very much, but I suggest that you hang around until you can take a seat over here.
Right here.
I'm trying to get my bearings here, because we're so used to having workshops upstairs and we're so informal that all of a sudden I'm caught between which methodology we're using here. But let's just go ahead with sort of as we do it upstairs in terms of a discussion, a formal discussion. Given the outcome of the town hall meetings, we also have an additional map that went out yesterday or the day before. I can't keep track anymore. So we should put that up to see and have a discussion on that. Feedback, we haven't had a time to get any feedback on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I can jump in real quick, and I did something on the town hall, and I would agree it was really run well, especially with the technical difficulties, but I also was impressed with the thoughts from community and how they expressed them. I seen the three options that the consultants pulled together, listened to the reasoning on how they looked at it, and certainly, I'll just kind of run through all three options. Option A certainly was a bold attempt to, use this as an opportunity to change things up, in a way that we haven't done in the past. I don't feel strongly we needed to do that or need to do that. I'll take my district. I can speak with that with confidence, but I know that all the districts, whether you look at the local level, city council, school board, which runs citywide, but is still a part of 4 districts, House seats, Senate seats, engagement in the community, the evolution in diversity and leadership roles has been extremely strong in this county. I look at this board, I'm the only white guy. I am the only white guy out of 7, right? And that wasn't the case when I joined this board in 2000. And so I appreciate the efforts of the consultants and, a bold look. I think if we wanted to go down that path, we would have to do what other counties do when they do that, and basically agree that all commissioners are going to run and clean that slate up, and then you take a look at the full county and what you can do boldly instead of trying to do bold stuff in parts of the county. You tie your hands. So I'm not supportive of option A. I understand the reasoning behind it, but I also, made strong arguments when I met with the consultants that that's not needed, and in an area that was getting split in half, my district, the first state senator, Mimua, lived in the district that they say they were going to pull out, to try to bring, the opportunity for Hmong representation. We have Jay Zhang, who represents the part of my district that would have been pulled out and is one. And the one thing that we don't think of, or that didn't get incorporated, I think, until, and my comments can be around B too. I mean, I think B was trying to miss a couple of different goals and just, didn't work at all. And I'll take my spot. I'm confident that ever who replaces me come November will be a person of color. The three announced candidates are an African-American woman, an African-American man, and a Hmong woman. And I'm confident of that. And, there are ways in democracy where transition occurs, right? There are times when community just says, you've done a great job, but I think it's time for a change, and we see incumbents lose races and people move in. And there are times when that representation within a community is earned, it's trusted, people are supportive of that and recognize the work that both the elected official does in that community and that trust is built. And then the opportunity comes when there is no incumbent, and that's what's occurring, at least in my district. And I'm not going to speak for Tony, but Tony's made her announcement. I have no intention of playing the card of, well, never mind, I'm going to run. And so I'm pretty confident that everyone who sits in this chair come next January, first Tuesday in January, will be a person of color. Commissioner Ortega or Chair Ortega, I did look at your map D. I really appreciated that your map, or that map that was pulled together with maybe a number of folks, actually included the precinct lines now. So that really gives us, there's no changing here. We've got those precinct lines in. I think this map really, at least fits the goals that we've had in this county. It gets really hard when we have to make big changes. I can remember 2002 when, Commissioner Haig, who, District 4, was way under, right? And I was way over, and we had to adjust, but we had to get through 2 commissioner districts to help support and, get those districts in line. So it can get a little bit difficult when we have to make that kind of adjustment and moving through districts where maybe that adjustment doesn't need to occur, but it's going to occur because we need to make that work. And so I think Map D is a map that does that well. Commissioner District 3, Commissioner Madison Steele, same spot, needs to gain folks. Fortunately, she butts up to me, and that gets a little bit easier because we can make some direct transfers there and not necessarily affect other commissioners. But, based upon the values that we started with and kind of the framework that we were looking, I think Map D positions us well. It takes a lot of the information that the consultants did to help form their maps. And it really takes a lot of what came in play with the community meetings and the feedback we heard at those community meetings about communities of interest. And I think you've heard me talk about this before, but I really want to emphasize, because even though I'm not running again, and you might think I don't care what District 6 looks like, I care a lot about what District 6 looks like. This is my community, and the community that I've represented for 22 years. It's a community I raised my kids in. And the one thing that I've always been proud of on the east side is we have these communities of very close-knit: Prosperity, Highwood Hills, Battle Creek, Conway, Hazel Park, Hayden Heights, Lower Payne, Wilder, Arlington, Phelan. They are distinct communities amongst themselves, but they have always banded together and they have worked together as the east side. And that's rare, I think. I truly believe that is rare. There was a point in time, Commissioner Ortega, you'll remember, and some of you, where we actually awarded the 4 district councils that work in my district, because they work together so closely, a grant through Regional Rail to foster equity conversations within our community about transit investments and what happens if it doesn't and what happens if it does. And I call that out because it really is more than just pockets of community of interest, but it's an area of a community of interest that they've built together, that they've been able to advocate together when it makes sense, and when they need to advocate for their individual positions, they do that really well. And so I think Map D works really well. I know, there's 4 other districts. The suburban districts, I think, fortunately, we've been able to kind of make those work with the numbers, and so the conversation is around the 4 St. Paul districts. But Commissioner Ortega, I would support moving map D forward and putting it on the table for further discussion.
Let me,
Mr. Chair, just for point of clarity, map D, because it's not in the packet that went out, we do have it up now on the screen for anyone viewing today. It's been being built, as you mentioned, over the last few days, building off the community feedback from last week. It will be uploaded alongside the other maps coming out of today before any conversation would occur for next Tuesday or beyond with the county board. So for anyone watching, map D is the map currently displayed up on the screen, and you could compare that to the other redistricting maps already available in today's packet and information. Thank you.
I just wanted to add before I go to the commissioners that, excuse me, that we had, various considerations, keeping neighborhoods intact, being compact and contiguous, et cetera, et cetera. But this map also, Victoria Reinhardt's district had one precinct in St. Paul, and which broke up the east side. We put that to the east side. Mounds View is now under 1 commissioner versus 2 commissioner. Not Mounds View, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
St.
City of
Anthony.
No, Mounds View. You were right.
Mounds
You
View.
were right.
That's you, and also St. Anthony, so both of them.
Well, St. Anthony has always been 2 counties, and I kept all the Ramsey County. So that didn't change, but Mounds View, I gave.
Mounds View.
Mounds View was split, and now it's only
Right,
Commissioner Fetham's.
so there were other considerations in how these lines were drawn. I'm sure that we all could come up with variations of these, but there were various criterias that, and really not just criteria, but from the input of the community and at the town hall meeting in terms of keeping neighborhoods as together as possible. So that's another factor in. The other is that the precinct lines are different now from the city. So we had precincts that were much larger than before. And that also had an influence on how lines fell. Okay. Any other further discussion? Oh, Tony?
Commissioner Carter, then I'll say something.
I appreciate the work that has gone on and acknowledge that the couple of maps that we saw that were more dramatic and moderate change did have objectives that they were working toward. And I understand the need for us to see those opportunities or abilities to achieve objectives that may have sought to align more with the Voter Rights Act of 1965. It appears to me that the contortions we had to go through in order to even simulate that kind of alignment were so drastic and changed the sense of continuity and contiguous configuration, particularly for District 4, which tended to crawl all over to grab territory. It, in reflection of the manner in which our county has behaved, if you will, in terms of our ability to elect in our county, in this area, diverse representatives, seemed to be too much of a solution in search of a problem. And so seeing the configuration that we have today, which I only had the opportunity to see late last night and this morning because of travel, I do feel as though it represents more of a continuous, contiguous, and aligned set of neighborhoods, particularly for District 4, which is the district that I have represented for some time. As I looked at the prior A and B maps, I had commented that I had wished we had seen some demographic information beyond racial makeup. That demographic information would have led me to understand and appreciate what happens to our districts in terms of the grand diversity, that would include income diversity, for example. in the various areas. I don't know that we've ever looked at it that way. I have always appreciated the district that I've served because of its great diversity, which includes, of course, racial makeup, but which also includes the demographic of income. And I look at the map today and I wonder, I'm not able to glean exactly right now, nor would I ever probably, because that data is not available to us in this redistricting process. What I want to appreciate is that ongoing ability to have diverse districts throughout the county, that ongoing ability to see communities working together throughout the county. I definitely appreciate that we've been able to elect representatives of color and want to believe that even the configuration such as we see for African American people throughout our county will be true and possible for all demographics in our county in coming years. It was not always true that African Americans lived all over our county, such as it is today. And I look forward to the opportunity for all our communities to live all over our county and would not want to assume that we would have simple cultural affinities within one area or another forever. So I am glad that such as our consultant represented in the community meeting last week, that Ramsey County does appear to be the county of excellence that we strive to be, and is remarkable, in fact, in the manner in which our demographics have been able to work together. I look at the map today that has been redrawn, and as you say, it is not up, or it was not up initially for all to see. We will have the opportunity to discuss this again next week, and in the meantime to reflect on it as an opportunity map for us to move forward to in the future. Much better, I think, designed for us than A or B, and certainly closer to the C option that we had seen before, which was minimal change, and provides us with the opportunity to continue the sort of blending of communities that we have seen in Ramsey County. So just some initial thoughts. My apologies that I have not been able to look at this as others may have up until this point, but I will certainly be able to do so prior to next week. Thank you.
Nicole?
I defer to our electeds in St. Paul about how these communities are best aligned and coordinated together. I've lived in St. Paul for 10 years, but I haven't been there for a while, and I think it's most important that those who are on the ground and in those communities that know what goes together. I'm appreciative of uniting Mounds View. I think that was a challenge. Thank you, Commissioner McGuire, for allowing me to represent the whole of the city of Mounds View. And I think it makes sense where things have landed. So it sounds like to me from hearing from St. Paul commissioners that this makes more sense based on their understanding of their communities, and your knowledge and expertise exceeds mine, so I'll defer to you. And I appreciate what's been done in our suburban districts. I think they have already been well grouped together, that there's a lot of alignment there, and being able to represent the whole of a city makes a lot more sense. There's not the same distinct neighborhoods that we have in a city like St. Paul in our suburban areas. There are certainly some, but I think having that one precinct in Mounds View be split off was very confusing, and it didn't make a lot of sense in that community. So it's great to see that united. Yeah.
Thank you. Let me just, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would echo Commissioner Fretham's gratitude, that we're keeping communities together, because I think that was a goal, that we keep neighborhoods and cities, that feel aligned together. just want to affirm, because this is what I understand to be the case, although, because I can't see all the lines, and sometimes the naming of the city does cross over district lines, and I think it's just the way the map is such that we have kept the cities sort of in the same districts. Little Canada isn't split, even though the name goes between two districts, same for New Brighton. So those entire cities do reside in the same commissioner district, which I think is important for the clarity for residents of knowing who their representation is. And so we don't have the map to be looking at, right? It's up there, or where's the map that we should be?
You know what, I made copies just in case folks
Oh,
need
okay.
it.
I was just curious if I should be looking somewhere else. Is this the one you're looking at? Okay, oh, thank
Yep.
you. So I have,
We call that D.
we call this D? Okay. Great, I do have this, okay, so I have these up, yeah, okay. Thank you for that, and yes, I, along with Commissioner Fretham, then also defer to my colleagues in the city to be, to let us know about the communities that they represent and how those should best be kept together, and so I would yield to them on that, all of you on that, so thank you.
I have Commissioner Mara Castillo, but before she comes on, let me just say that map C was the map that I submitted to the consultants, all right? So I went from what is the most minimal impact, okay? But that was pre-new precinct lines. That was using the old data, right? Just to get, and so with all the maps you're looking at, A, B, and C, that's based on the old precinct lines and data. This map D, as I worked on it with others, it is, I could draw 10, 20 more maps, and they would all meet certain criterias, they all would fit within the deviation. But I gotta tell you, after looking at so many possibilities and options, and you could go a little off on this because every one of the commissioners could tweak it a little bit one way or the other. And this is about us coming to a consensus and agreement on what's best as a whole. Jim goes back, I was the chair, and I drew the first back in 2022. And Jim was a little unhappy, Janice Redmond was a little unhappy. I had to take more of the east side, which I never had before. So my philosophy at that time is everybody's a little unhappy, that's a good thing, And so to some extent, that's what's gonna happen here. But also keeping in mind that we did take that precinct away from Victoria's district to keep St. Paul whole in the east side. We did the things that I talked about before. So it's never gonna be perfect. You're never gonna get to zero in terms of the deviation. I just wanted to point those factors out.
And if I could say one more thing in addition to that, Mr. Chair, just to thank you for that work, and just people who look at redistricting maps and think it's being, configured in weird ways or gerrymandered, like mine looks really weird, like,
Yep.
oh, wow. But it is entire cities that are there, so it's not really our work that's it's the gerrymander word, these are full cities, so it's a map that makes sense, even though it looks like you've just
Weird.
drawn these
Yeah.
arbitrary lines. It's totally encompassing cities. So thank you. I just wanted to make sure that the viewing public, understands that it may look weird, but it's,
Exactly, I was gonna thank you for pointing that out. That was in my mind too. District 7 looks very weird, right?
yes, District 7 looks really weird.
Commissioner Mara Castillo?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for allowing me to join remotely. I just want to say thank you to the consultants and to you, Commissioner Ortega, and the other commissioners for the work on these maps. And as we have kind of laid out this process to engage the community and to be transparent, that we have drawn maps and taken the feedback that we heard loud and clear from community in those open forums about neighborhoods, specifically in the city of St. Paul, being held together. And so I have had the opportunity to take a look at this map closely and really support map D. and choose to find the good. Sure, as you mentioned, I could tweak things a little more and change lines, but I think overall this is really good and provides some unique opportunity that didn't happen before. It keeps the North End whole. It puts communities like Frogtown and Summit U that already work together together into one district in District 4. It also provides the opportunity for, as commissioners, as we think about issue areas and focus areas. For me in District 3, it provides, I now will have almost all of the high rises for public housing and might actually give me an opportunity to go deeper on affordable housing and public housing issues in the community. It allows a focus on the green line in District 4 with most of that, as well as with District 3, kind of taking ownership of those things. And so I just really appreciate it. I'm choosing to find the good in these maps and the good for our community. And I think it is a unique opportunity to do that. And so I fully support this map D as we move forward into the next phases, and just wanted to share those comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further comments or discussion? Jim?
Yeah, I guess I just need a little more clarity, Commissioner Carter, on kind of where you're at. It seems like you're certainly supportive of, getting to us to a spot where our lines are changed as least as possible, recognizing new precinct lines, keeping communities, but is C and D still in play for you, or do you just need to understand D a little bit more? I'm just trying to get, what's going to happen next week? Is there a continued conversation, or are we prepared to actually move forward
My hope was to get consensus. I mean, we're running up against the clock. If it's not next Tuesday, it definitely has to be the following Tuesday. We do have conventions coming up and all kinds, so I'm looking at the whole timeline. But it is the pleasure of this board,
Yeah.
Certainly, it is the pleasure of the board. And as I said, we did not have this in our packet. And so as we come together today and see it and are able to consider it together, we will be prepared for our discussion next week. I don't know if I could tell you today that I'm completely comfortable with this configuration. I'm certainly studying it right at this point in time. As I said, I've reflected on the district that I serve and all our districts as they have been configured in the past as an opportunity to see communities working together across the entire county. I certainly, as I look at a district that I have served, look at the fact that an entire community comes off, and that is the St. Anthony Park community. I'm looking, and I believe that there are others that we are also looking at discontinuing from District 4, and I guess I have a little bit of chagrin about that because of my history with this district. I have to think about, of course, how the districts work together on behalf of Ramsey County. And so that is what I will be reflecting on as we look toward our meeting next week. I would love to tell you that I understand all the lines and boundaries at this point in time and the reasons for their needing to change. What I do know is that we have to draw around a lot of things. And so I am assuming that as that work has been done over the past day and shared, as we've been thinking through it, that's what we've been doing. And so please allow me the time to reflect on that as well.
So thank you.
Just to be clear, Commissioner Carter keeps referencing the conversation we're having next week. Are we having another workshop next week?
That's...
Or are we going to be, is it going to be on the board, it's going to be on the board agenda for next week? It'll be an RBA, it'll be before us next week, so that will be for voting, okay. that was, okay.
There's always an opportunity for
Exactly, but
discussion.
we can discussion at the board meeting, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter, I
Chair,
agree with
Commissioners,
that.
I would suggest it
Yes.
should move forward on the board agenda next week. And
Yeah.
even if there are final pieces that require us to then use the last week, at least it continues to make sure we plod forward.
Yeah.
So it will be back as a request for board action. And to Commissioner Carter's piece specifically, and the point around income diversity across the district, we can do some, with the district to say from current to what map D looks like, Commissioner, I heard you on that. We can do some quick number running and share that information back with you based
That
on
would
your
be
comments
excellent.
today.
Let me just say, as I tried to explain before, my suggestion that it would stay incorporated was map C, okay? And so I just referenced that to the point that I've been immersed in this, and I gotta tell you, yeah, you could keep tweaking this, and we will not come to a decision. Eventually, we're gonna have to bite the bullet and vote on a map. So Jim had had moved map D.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yep, and I'm not like, certainly Commissioner Carter, I know you've got some work to do to understand the map, and I respect that.
Yeah.
But I think, for clarity for staff, for clarity for us, I would move map D to be on the agenda next week for discussion, and then, potentially, hopefully, resolution. But on the agenda as the RBA for us to focus in on.
Do I have a second on that?
I guess. I can
Second.
Second it, yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. I think we've achieved our goal for today, and I want to thank Brian and Aday. How do you pronounce your name again?
Aday.
Aday, I did say it right. I read it and I always, but thank you so much for your work. It is, you guys did good work, and we appreciate it.
Is there a consultant on the line too? We
line?
should acknowledge the
Yes,
work
that.
that he did. He was a big part
We
of
have Dave
this.
Heller, who helped to draw the maps A,
Yeah.
B, and C, and participated in the town hall.
Yes, thank you, Dave, and all involved. I'm sorry, without the visual, I forgot all about you, quite frankly. But thank you for all your work.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I appreciate that.
I think we're adjourned. Thank you.
Okay. It's so hard because it's like,
Thank you, Rob, for your